Hello, everybody. Amber here. Welcome back to In Conversation with ATF. My guest today is a returning guest. He was on my show 3 years ago. You may know him as Blurr from the Transformers franchise. You may know him as Sonic Seymour from Garfield and Friends. You may know him from Micro Machines, FedEx, Sesame Street, Star Chaser, The Legend of Orin. That's probably brought back something for you. Well, he is the one of the fastest talking guys I know. And trust me, I talk fast, and I don't usually come across a lot of people who talk that fast. So I'm in the presence of a legend. My guest is John Moschitta Jr.
Hey, how are you? I can't
Hi.
believe it's been 3 years already. How did that happen? How did 3 years go by? I mean, it feels like I just talked to you about it 5 minutes ago, and now you're telling me it's 3 years. I can't believe it's 3 years. 3 years. I mean, that's a long time. 3 years, so it's really we're overdue for a conversation.
I know, yeah. It's oh, and you sorry, I completely forgot. Mr. Testaverde in
Oh,
Saved by
terrible
the Bell.
Testaverde. Yes, on Saved
Terrible
by the Bell.
Testaverde. Oh my gosh. So how are you doing? Because it's been, as you said, 3 whole years.
Yes, I've been doing good. Of course, we had the whole COVID thing, and
Mhm.
I managed not to get it until this past Halloween. So I
Oh
managed
no.
not to get it for years and years, and then I got it, and now I have some long COVID. So that's a pleasure.
Oh
Um,
no.
I'm tired all the time. I can't get a deep breath and whatever. But they say it'll last about
Ooh.
6 months to a year, and then it'll go away. So we'll see. It was
Ooh.
bound to happen sooner or later. I was down to the last person I knew that didn't get it, so or hadn't had it yet. So now I'm not a member of that club anymore.
I mean, same as me, because at the end of 2021, I was like, I must be immune or something. Then all of a sudden, all of us got it at the same time. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, it is
Well,
something.
and I've been wearing my mask and being diligent. I have a twin sister, and her
You have a
husband,
twin sister?
unfortunately, I do.
I didn't know
And
that.
unfortunately, I have five sisters altogether: Joan, Judy, Jill, Jane, and Joy. We're all spelled with J's. We're all four letters. Joy is
Oh,
spelled
wow.
Joye. My
Uh-huh.
father was John, and of course, my mother was Carol. So go figure that out. But and then her brother was Jack. His wife was Joyce. Their kids were Jacqueline and Jackie. So we had a lot of J's. My grandmother would yell at us. She'd just go, to look like she was having a stroke. But last summer, unfortunately, my twin sister's husband got sick and died unexpectedly.
Oh,
And I went to the
no.
funeral. There was only three people wearing masks: my 90-year-old cousin, my 85-year-old aunt, and me. And then there were like 300 people at the funeral. Everybody got COVID except the three of us wearing the mask. So I thought, okay, well, I think, it's pretty good. I'm not going to get it. That was in July. And then I got it literally on Halloween. I found out I had it.
Oh, no. Oh, that is like the
So that was
worst
my trick or
timing.
treat was COVID.
Oh, that is like, you got a trick. That is like the worst timing. Oh, no. I'm so sorry, John. Um, how have you been feeling since this? I know you said you've had a bit of long COVID, but overall, how have you
Yeah, no,
been feeling?
when I had it, it really didn't feel. I was a little clammy and
Yeah.
then very tired, and then for a while after I was no longer testing positive, just exhausted. Doing the slightest little thing, I wanted to just go lay down and sleep for 2 hours. But now I'm pretty good. I'm back up. I just got home from the gym right before I checked in with you, and so I'm back up
Mm-hmm.
doing my normal stuff.
Yeah.
It's just I do get tired. My voice gets a little raspy, hoarse, my throat. Um, and then I have this lung. There's a thing that happens. It's the weirdest thing. Your brain gets a message that you don't have any oxygen, even though you have plenty of oxygen. You
Yeah.
put a thing on your finger and it says it's 98% oxygen, but your brain gets a message that you don't have any oxygen. So it starts your heart pounding, which makes you breathe a lot. And then
Mm.
you can't get a breath because you're breathing too much and you think you have no oxygen, but you have oxygen. But they said it's one of the long COVID symptoms. So it's just a
Wow.
pleasure. Luckily, that has almost gone away. It happened again this morning at the gym, which was a drag, but it hasn't happened in a while, so that's pretty good.
That's good. Well, I don't want to make this interview too long. I don't even say half an hour just because I don't want to tire you out. Honestly, that's the last
Yeah,
thing I want to do.
I'll need a nap after
I
talking
mean,
with you.
you talk so fast, like all the time, and you just you, you don't get tired from talking too fast. Like, do you ever run out of breath when you're talking too fast? Obviously, this was before you had
I
the
just
COVID.
actually did a job the other day, and with this post-COVID stuff, some
Mm-hmm.
of the stuff, it's really the breath control has been a little tough. I
Ah,
really have
right.
to concentrate on when I'm going to take a breath when I'm reading, especially if I'm reading a whole big long list. I got to really
Wow.
figure out when I'm going to need to take a breath, because if I wait too long, then I have to take too big a breath, and the take is not good. But if
Yeah.
I, time it out to the right thing, I can get little breaths in there and keep going. But where I would normally be able to do the list in one breath, I have to take two or three little breaths in it now, just for the long COVID. But
Ah, right.
other than that, I usually can, it was always funny. I'd go do a job and I'd be, talking fast the whole day, doing the whole thing and whatever. And then at the end of the day, I just turn it off, and everybody else is running around, walking into walls, talking really fast. It's like it's contagious. They all start picking up their pace, and I just turn it off and go home, and they're all like a mess.
Oh, bless. Well, honestly, so actually, yeah, speaking of sessions, the last time we spoke, you said to me that you had a session to run to afterwards. Turns out that
Mm-hmm.
session was for the Transformers Hasbro Pulse stop motion shorts that were
Right.
produced. Wow. So yeah, and
Yeah, no,
like
everything nowadays is such secrets when you do it until they come out. And most places they're called NDAs, non-disclosure agreements.
yeah.
And before they'll even tell you anything, they send you this 10-page legal document, which basically says, I won't tell anybody what you tell me. I won't show anybody what you tell me. I won't talk about anybody to anybody about what you tell me. Until you tell me, I can tell people. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so stupid because they do it for the stupidest things. And like even when you audition, before they'll show you the lines you're going to audition with, you have to sign these NDAs. And sometimes it's just for a commercial where it's something stupid, where nobody, I'm going to the grocery store. And it's like, who's going to care if I tell them I'm going to the grocery store? And then what they
You
do
know?
with a lot of shows, like especially the Star Wars shows and the Star Trek shows, where
Yeah.
everything is super secret because there's so many fans that are trying to get all in on it. When I've had a couple of friends that have been on the show, and when they go in audition, they don't even send them the lines. They send them a different script from a different show,
Yeah.
and then they don't even know what part they're playing until they show up.
That
I
just
had a friend that
reminds
showed up. She had
me.
to have like 6 hours of makeup. She didn't know. She was like, "Why do I have to be there at 4 o'clock in the morning?" Well, that's your call. She shows up. She had to sit there and have 6 hours of makeup, and had no idea.
That
So it's
reminds me,
crazy.
when they produced the show Friends, every time I think like after they'd done rehearsals, they'd always have to throw their scripts out because no one, especially like with like the series, the season finales and stuff like that, and especially like the final ever episode, they had to literally just bin their scripts as soon as they've recited it because it could not get out to anyone. It was that secret.
Yeah, no, they have. I've worked on shows where they have the scripts are numbered, and then they
Mhm.
collect them, and
Oh,
you have to turn it in. And if you're number seven and they're missing seven, they come after you. It's like, all right,
oh.
whatever. It's
Yeah, I
silly.
was gonna say.
People give so much importance to what they do, and they like to feel more important than they really are. So it just is what it is.
She put a little security tag on.
Exactly.
You just walk up, and just goes beep beep. Oh crap. Oh, that would probably make people's jobs a lot more easy. So the stop motion shorts, of course. What was it like to return to the role of Blur? Because obviously, like, it's very weird story, especially for me, because I think it was a few months after we spoke, I became good friends with one of the producers on the project, Joe Troutman, and he's,
Oh, sure.
introduced me to Flint Dilly and everyone like that. So, it's just it all kind of all connected. What was it like to really work on it? And it wasn't just Blur you voiced a few other characters as well for it.
Yes, I did. They kind of threw at me whatever. It was just fun, to be in the studio with the guys. And there were a couple of new people who, hadn't done stuff that was fun to watch them and have them watch me. And they just kind of let me run with it a lot. So a lot of the stuff is just stuff that I just did off the cuff for those things. They wrote like a line or two. Because Flint even said, "Boy, if we would have known back then, we didn't have to write anything. Just tell you come up with something. It would have been a lot easier for us." But it was fun. It's
Yeah,
I'm an old man, so to go to go into a studio and talk about struts is just it's crazy.
yeah, definitely. And like I remember when the whole thing came out and I was like, this is just amazing. But I think the most sad thing about it is the fact that we didn't get it in the UK. We didn't get a 35th anniversary release of the film in the UK, which
Oh,
sucks
that's too
really.
bad.
Yeah, so we kind of missed out, but they put all the shots on YouTube so we could just enjoy
Yeah.
them there. So it
Well,
was
yeah, we
fine.
went to they had a screening in Beverly Hills for the birthday, and that's where they premiered all of the bits, and the audience really went crazy for them because, I mean, well, Transformers fans will probably want me taken out and tarred and feathered for saying this, but you know, I haven't even seen a lot of the episodes because when I recorded them, I was traveling. I would come in, I'd read a couple of lines. It wouldn't even be with everybody. I would leave. The episodes wouldn't be on for a year. I wouldn't even see them. I'd never see the full script. So I wouldn't know a lot of the stuff that went on or some of the controversies. So when we were doing these stop motion ones, they were saying, well, see, what happened was everyone thought that this was really what happened because we didn't do it right. So then I'm like, oh, I had no idea. So when they premiered the stuff, everyone was getting the jokes that I didn't know were jokes because I wasn't, privy to all the stuff that was going on. So, but the people in the audience just went nuts for it, nuts for it.
Oh, bless them.
And they always love the reaction that Blurr gets is always so good. I'm so grateful for that because the fans just love it. It just, you don't know why. You don't know why people like certain, why do you like certain things? You don't know. But the fans seem to, even though I wasn't one of the main characters, they just remember Blurr and love Blurr. So
because
I'm
you
not
are
complaining.
Blur,
That's very great. Yes,
essentially.
I am Blurr.
Yeah, I was gonna say because in like most recent iterations, the character doesn't even talk fast, which literally takes away the whole sort of
Yeah, I don't know
concept.
what they were thinking. I did a couple of versions of the show and then some other things in the movie. And they have a bunch of stuff online where they have all the different voices of people who have done Blur. And I'm like, well,
Yeah,
this isn't Blur. That's not the character. Come up with a different Autobots, and call it a
yeah,
different name. And then, whatever. You don't have to use me all the time. But, I was the comic relief in the show. And that was, you just kind of, well, it is what it is.
yeah,
People are going to do what the people are going to do.
yeah.
And, but I was surprised when I saw a couple of them. Because one guy talks like this is Blur, and very slow. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, that was I think that was one of the headmaster's dubs. They renamed him to Wally because it was very badly translated from Japanese to English. So everything was
Ah,
all mixed up and like Blaster was called Billy and everything like that. It was very weird, really. um, so John, I'd like to talk a little bit about a film that you did, Star Chaser, The Legend of Orin or
Orin,
Orin.
yes.
Orin. Yeah. So tell me a bit about that film because I'm looking at it now. It was made in 85. It was released in 85 and there was I know there's a few Transformers people on it. Yeah, there was Ken Sansom who voiced Hound and Mona Marshall who voiced a few female characters of Transformers. But yeah, what was it? Do you remember much about working
Well,
on that
that was
film?
one of those ones where we never saw the full script.
Mm-hmm.
There was no sessions with other people. When I showed up, there was like 10 people there in the waiting room, but they took us one at a time and just did our lines.
Ah, right.
And I think we did it 2 years before the movie even came out because it took so long that, they hadn't done any of the animation yet and it was being sent overseas to wherever to be done. So it was, yeah, so it just was, because I had a couple of friends. We were just sitting around in the waiting room, just talking, that did various different parts. And they just gave us our lines and that was it.
Wow, yeah, I was mainly gonna ask that because like one of my friends, Noelle North, was in the film as well. I'm not sure. Do you remember seeing her there
Yeah,
or?
that sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, she was two female characters in the film. So yeah, I was gonna say very long cast list. I'm looking at it. Yeah, it was a good cast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you had a good you remember working on it very well. And I'm just looking
Yeah,
up some
no, it
background
was fun. I
information.
just remember going in there. I did did another film uh that was kind of fun. It was the same kind of thing. We never saw the whole script. We just did our part. But it was a film called Rat Boy, and it was a German movie, and we were dubbing it into English.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd have the headsets on, but you'd hear the German voice, and you
Mm-hmm.
would try. You had no idea what they're talking about, and you're trying to line it all up to the German voice and to the character, moving. It was a stop motion with animals and rats and things. I was the Papa Rat. So it
Yeah.
was really hard to do because you had to be moving your mouth when the rat's mouth was moving. Of course, you couldn't tell what they were saying because they weren't really saying anything, but you had to be synced up to it. So it was difficult.
Well, yeah, honestly, like dubbing honestly must have been. How hard would you have said it would have been for you, dubbing that?
Well, because it was, in German,
Mm-hmm.
it was difficult because you didn't know what they were saying.
You got
If
to get
you're
a
if you're a lot
loop
of
as
times,
well.
you go in for do a show and you have to do what they call looping.
Yeah.
Either someone decided they needed to change a word, oh, we can't say that word,
Mm-hmm.
or there's a truck going by and this take is ruined, or an airplane or whatever. You have to go in and you do what's called ADR, automated dialogue replacement,
Yeah.
and in a loop session, and you're doing it to yourself, so it's easy. And you hear it, they give you the headsets beep 3 times, and the fourth beep is silent, but that's your time to start talking. So you just hear beep, 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 and you start talking, or you wait for the when it's your word is coming in. Usually it's just like they changed the word, or there was
Yeah.
some audio little glitch or something. So that's not difficult. But in German, it was tough. I was on a show called Zorro and Son,
Mm-hmm.
and I played Corporal Cassette, which was a human tape recorder. So I fast forwarded. I talked fast. They put me in slow, so I talk like that,
Mm-hmm.
and they would rewind me, and and that was a hard show to loop because you're just doing these weird sounds, and they would edit it. So it wasn't even what you did in the studio, it was what someone edited together. So to try to figure out the slow motion or the fast stuff was okay because you were doing words, but the other stuff was a little difficult to make it look like you were actually saying it when you were saying it.
Yeah.
I never got a lunch on that show. I was always in the looping station at my lunchtime going.
Well, they owe you a lunch then in that case.
That's all.
Mm-hmm.
It was great.
Absolutely.
It was over on the Disney lot before they knocked down all the old sets.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the old West set was from
Yeah.
like Shakiest Gun in the West. And if
Yeah.
you like walked in the saloon and walked out the back door, you were in Zorro land. So that's where we
Wow.
filmed on Zorro.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then they had like an Eastern European kind of village. So it was great. And they were all on the back lot. Problem was they were right by the freeway, and trucks would go by and see you filming and blow the horn just to, bust your chops. So you'd be in the middle of something.
Like they know something's going on in this. They just go,
Yeah.
"Hmm,
We're just going to wreck this for him.
yeah, yeah, I'm just about to ruin this man's career. Mm. John, okay. I'd like to talk about TFCon LA. Now, for those of you at home who don't know, well, I mean, at this point, you might have known by now. There's a big G1 reunion coming up in March, and it's going to be at TFCon LA in Burbank. And John is going as a guest. And honestly, I'm looking at the lineup, and of course, you've got Peter Cullen, Frank Welker, you've got Michael Horton, you've got who else is there? Michael Bell, Neil Ross, Greg Berger, Paul Iding. You get all these people who you got to work on Transformers and the film with. So how would it feel? Because I'm not sure. Because you said that you weren't there for half of the sessions. You recorded on your own for a lot of them.
Right. Because if I was traveling a lot, and I really
Yeah,
missed that because those sessions, let me tell you, that was, some kind of fun. Because
yeah.
you also had, besides all the people that you mentioned, you had Dick Godier and Scatman Crothers and, all these other people. So it was great. And it was just fun time. So I was always upset when I missed the sessions and only just did my own. Um, it's fun at the convention because it's funny, everybody's in a room before they go out into the main hall to sign autographs and do whatever. And it's like, big reunion. Everyone's sitting around talking. Nobody wants to go out to sign the autograph. They all just want to stay and visit. So it's really good to see everybody. And, it's 40 years ago. So everybody's old now. You know, some people are old. I mean, I'm 70, that's old, but there are people that are 80 and 85. And you're like, geez, how the hell did this happen?
I know, yeah. I presume you're very excited then, of course, to see
Yeah,
everyone
no,
for all
it'd be
these
great to
years.
see everybody. And it's always great to meet some of the fans. I don't, you do these things and it's nice. You have fun,
Hmm.
but you don't really understand the impact that it has on people.
Yeah.
And I have people come up to me that say the nicest things about, how I made their childhood happy and they loved watching this or watching that or whatever. And that's just really, when you're filming a Micro Machines commercial, you're not thinking about making someone's life happy. You're thinking about selling Micro Machines. So to hear that is great. Or I love this or I love that. And I was lucky enough to have just not one thing. I had a couple of things. I had the Sesame Street, which I used to get stared down by 6-month-olds in the store, and the parents wouldn't know why, but the kids would recognize me from Sesame Street. And then, of course, Saved by the Bell, which is on. I still get residual checks every week from Saved by the Bell. It's playing someplace.
Wow.
And of course, Micro Machine Man. Those commercials ran in 37 countries. We did over 125
Wow.
commercials. So we used to come actually to England and do separate versions of them because you
Oh,
guys called parts of the car different things. It'd basically be the same commercial. We just changed the script because we say hood and trunk and you say boot and bonnet. We get gas, you get petrol. You motor, we drive. So we would come and change those words for all the British Isles. And
mm-hmm.
it was a great trip every year. We'd go film at Shepperton. So that was really like amazing.
Shepperton Studios.
Yeah, have like,
Oh my
this
God.
history all around you.
What year would
And
this have been? Oh, I see one of your little kitties in the background.
oh, it's they're
I just
just
saw a little pair of ears sticking up.
just jump up. Yeah, they were just eating some flowers. I was almost going to have to stop and yell at them to get down, but then they jumped down. So
Yeah,
this would have
Shepperton.
been,
So
in the
cute.
mid '80s, late '80s, early '90s. I'd come over every year and do the commercials over there.
Oh my
So, I had that, and then of course Transformers. So there was, if people didn't weren't familiar with all those things, they were familiar with at least one of them or two of them. So
yeah,
it was nice to have so
yeah,
many different things that
yeah.
that people grew up with and stuck with.
I think I remember seeing a was it is it Motormouth the board game that was
Oh yeah, I
released?
had a board game called
Yeah.
Motor Mouth. It was really fun. Unfortunately, it came out in a really bad retail year.
Oh dear.
Um, it's a fun game. It actually was available in Europe under the name Tongue Tangle.
Tongue
It's a tongue
tangle.
twister game. It has the timer. There's a pair of plastic lips, and the timer. You never know how much time is on it, so you have to take a card, read the what's on the card, and then pass the lips. And you don't want to be stuck with the lips. It's like hot potato while it's going around.
Yeah,
And it was a fun game. My picture was on it on the game board on the
I was gonna
box. So
say it's different design in the UK. I think it's completely different board design, but it is the same
yeah,
concept.
yeah. So
Mouth.
yeah, no, there's several different versions, and like I say, Tongue Tangle was done in a lot of different languages. Where they put their own. They used our rules, but the rest of it was all just their own stuff that they put in there.
Yeah, well,
So
that is awesome though. Like you're officially immortalized in a video game. I mean, technically you are because Micro Machines was made into a video game. So yeah.
yeah. Well, they have Joe Settlemeyer, who did the Federal Express commercial.
Mm-hmm.
He had for a while there. It didn't last. The craze didn't last too long, but they had VHS games where the game
Oh,
came with a VHS that you put in
yep, yeah,
and you hit play and it would
yeah.
ask you a question and you'd pause it and then you have to answer it and whatever. And
I
Joe
know the
Settlemeyer
one.
has one that features all his commercials called Commercial Crazies. So
Ooh.
I'm on a cartoon of me is on the cover of the box, and then I'm in the game as well. But yeah, it was called Commercial Crazies. So that was
Oh.
good. And I'm a question in Trivial Pursuit, uh, which was really
You're just
weird to be playing Trivial Pursuit
immortalized in board game
and your
history.
cards come up. I'm like, that's cheating. You can't have a question. And I've been answer a couple of times on Jeopardy, which was pretty weird. It wasn't people didn't have to come up with my name. My name would be in it. Like this president joined John Moschitta in the fastest talking section of the Guinness Book. And it was John F. Kennedy was being heckled at a speech, and he just went off speech and just lambasted somebody, and he's got the record as the fastest extemporaneous speaker. Um,
Wow.
so that kind of stuff. But that was weird. I mean, you want to talk about like your phone ringing off the hook? You were a Jeopardy question.
Yeah, it happens a lot more often than you think.
Yeah.
The not micro, we just mentioned micro machines. I'm so sorry. The FedEx commercial, what were the most award-winning commercial in the history of commercials. Of course, you deliberately made a mistake. I mean, when you say something about a Dick Donald Duck or something like that.
No, it was the end of the thing, and it was
Uh-huh.
got to go Dave disconnecting, got to go Dick disconnecting, got to go Dan disconnecting. Uh, Dave, what's the deal with the deal? Are we dealing? Dave, it's a deal with Don. If it's a deal with Dick, Dick, it's a deal with Dave. If it's a deal with, so he wanted a mistake in that, and he
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to call one of his characters Dork, and the network would never let him call anybody Dork because
Ah,
it's a slang.
right.
I don't know if it's a slang term in England, but here it's a slang term for a member of the male anatomy. Um, and a stupid person. But he wanted to call him Dork. So around the boardroom scene, we had Jim, Bill, Bob, Carl, Fred, Lode, Dork,
Mm-hmm.
Adolf, and Ted. And
Mm-hmm.
then at the end, I said we were doing, Dave was to deal with the deal. We were doing Dave to deal with Don. I'm on the phone with Dick and Ed and leaning back, and packages are coming and whatever. And I did like 24 takes without making a mistake because they couldn't make up their mind. Did they want a box? Did they want a tube? Did they want a whatever? And sometimes the camera didn't work and whatever. So finally he said, do you want, and he goes, don't you ever make a mistake? I said, I'll give you a mistake the next time. So I said, David's a dork with a Dick, Don, and Duck. And
Dick
that's the
Donald
take.
Duck. It's a
And that's the
Donald
take. If
Duck.
you listen to it, and David's a dork with Dick, Don, and Duck. Got to go Dave disconnecting. Got to go Dick disconnecting.
It's awesome. I always thought it was Donald Duck. I was like,
No.
missing it my whole life.
Well,
Oh,
Dick, Don, and Duck. So it's almost Donald Duck. So it's, just Don and Duck.
yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, no, at
yeah,
that speed, it's hard to decipher sometimes. I remember
yeah.
when I first came out, I was in a restaurant, and the people at the table behind me were arguing about what the guy in the Federal Express commercial said. And well, he says this, he says that, and then the guy bet, and the one guy was a real jerk, and he was wrong.
Did you butt
And
in?
so they finally bet each other $20. And then I just turned around and said, "Excuse me, I am the guy in the Federal Express commercial. What I say is blah blah blah. He's right, you're wrong. Pay him." You should have seen the looks on their face. They were
They're
so
like,
great.
oh my gosh, that's the FedEx guy. That is so awesome,
Never could.
honest.
I had a similar thing, not involving me, but I went out to dinner with a friend who didn't like the actor Steven Seagal.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sitting, we're at this very fancy restaurant. It's overlooking Sunset Boulevard. And Steven Seagal had a movie that was coming out. I don't remember what movie, but he had just been on all the talk shows and whatever, in this big giant poster. And she was sitting and she said, "Oh, somebody changed my seat. I do not want to eat dinner," staring at Steven Seagal the whole time. I've been seeing him all over the TV. He's just awful. I hate him. I don't like him, whatever. And all of a sudden, the guy behind her taps her on the shoulder and says, "So sorry to hear that." And it was Steven
Oh
Seagal.
no! Oh no! You must have been so embarrassed.
She was just mortified.
Oh my goodness.
Mortified.
They say it, they wouldn't say it to another person's face. It's crazy. Um, John, I'd like to ask you one final question before
Okay.
I round off this interview. So would you like to maybe continue doing voiceover work? Because of course you did the stop motion shorts, and I know are you technically still working or are you retired?
Um, well, I guess you would call it semi-retired. I'm
Okay,
not really out there pounding the pavement looking for work, but I still work all the time.
you're just there if anyone needs you.
Yeah, people call me. They either want me or they don't. I've been a union member for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
My 50th year was this year. So, people know me, they know what I do, so they either
Mm-hmm.
want me or they don't. Sometimes I'll go out on an audition for a movie or a TV show, but mostly, voiceovers and things like that, they call me if they have something special that they want to do. I just did a job for a computer company, and it was specifically tailored for me. Uh, so I do that, and go to the convention. And I love doing the voiceover stuff. I mean, I wish I could be on a few more series. I mean, I did do, before COVID, I did a bunch of Robot Chickens, and I've done, episode of Family Guy here and an
You did
episode of
Adventure Time as well, yeah.
yes. Well, Adventure Time, I just was. I love that character. I wish they would have that character back. The keeper. He Enkai Ridia. Oh, I just love doing him. And it was only the one episode, because he opens the land to Adventureland, and then that was it. But I
Yeah.
love doing him, and I did him in a video game also.
Yeah, Lego
It
Dimensions,
was
yeah.
Yeah, it was so weird. It was exactly the same words,
Yeah.
and I had to just read the same words, but they couldn't take for some union regulation, they couldn't take the words
Yeah.
off of the movie.
Yeah, that sounds like a really fun character.
It was a fun character, and I wish he would be, uh was still there. I mean, I look at it and it's really, a lot of the one-off characters that I did, like for Pinky and the Brain and
I was gonna ask
Gar
about Pinky and the Brain, yeah.
um, I look at them and I go, wow, that was really good. That really was good. And I
Yeah.
loved when I listened to the Keeper voice, I'm like, that's really a good voice. They should use that character, or at least had that voice come back somewhere. It was a really good voice, and you only get to do it the one time, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I've just had a look. Someone's messaged me. They've just announced another guest for TFCon LA. They've just announced Hal Rail. I'm not sure if you remember
Ah,
working with him. So yeah, and I have had him on my show as well. So yeah, everyone, it seems like wow, it's just all these voice actors coming in. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to meet in
well,
person.
they're
Like,
trying to make it really, bigger, better, brighter, bolder. So
yeah, yeah,
we'll
yeah. I was
see.
gonna.
Hopefully, I didn't do. I used to do them very sparsely, and then I because I moved to Burbank and it was so close, I figured, okay, I'd do it. Back in the day, they used to pay you a flat rate to go do it, an appearance
Mhm.
fee,
Yeah,
and you had contracted to do this many hours signing autographs and to do a panel and to whatever, and you knew what you were going to make, and you went, and it was a job, and they paid very well, and it was good. Then they started doing. Some of them would do the people would pay you for an autograph, and I didn't like that because it was, to me in the beginning, it was just kind of creepy because, kids would be there and I want to get his autograph. And the mother would be, no, 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 you got this one over here. Whereas with the other kind of conventions, they would just pay one entrance fee and could get everybody's autograph. So
yeah,
I like that better. So I stopped doing them for a while. But then I realized, well, that's how these shows are now. Nobody pays an appearance fee. They do whatever. People expect to pay the money. I'm always shocked when people pay money, you know,
you need to come to TF Nation. It's the UK Transformers convention, and I think like yeah, because you of course you pay your ticket fee, but I think you get I think you get two free autographs from each guest.
hmm,
And then, of course, additional ones you have to pay, but you don't have to pay much, if that makes sense, like 30
yeah.
or something. But yeah, they're really good. And yeah, I went last year. That's where I met Susan Blue. So she was very lovely. So yeah, it is a really lovely convention. But there are a few voice actors, well, not specifically them, but their agents who have turned down TF Nation because of the whole free autograph thing, which is a bit, yeah. But yeah, honestly, it's really cool. And you'd be able to come back over here. Maybe go to Shepperton. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would rather, I'd just rather do that. You don't have, then people can just do what they want to do and whatever else. So did you say you
Yeah.
saw Sue Blue there? She was there?
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
love
saw
Sue.
Super.
Sue is so good.
She was amazing.
We did a convention together where we always had our signings together. She was on one side of the
Oh,
table, I was on the other. And well, she was also, she was a great director. So I worked for her several times.
yeah,
So
definitely. She is. She's probably one of the best voice directors, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah, just terrific. And just as nice as could be. Just a nice, nice person.
Yeah,
Sometimes you luck out and you get to work with someone that's not only nice, they're talented, they know what they're doing. And she's definitely one of them. She's really terrific.
yeah, and her panels were great as well. They were so great. Like there were two panels, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. I was gonna say when they do TFCon next month, they should just have a panel like for you, like just you, like you're just that iconic.
Well, I have at some of the conventions, I don't remember if I did a TF con ever.
Hmm.
But there was BotCon and a couple others. I have had my own, just my session.
Oh, that is awesome.
And I'm always like, oh, is there going to be anybody there? worried that, is somebody going to show up or nobody's going to show up? So,
Mm.
but no, it was, they always filled out and it was fun. And, people get to ask you questions. Now, some people will ask you questions like, in episode 57, when your struts melted, what was that like? And you have to explain to them that you're not an Autobot, you're a person and you don't have struts and they didn't melt. But most people are just really nice. So yeah, no, I have done just me a couple of times. I don't think at the at TFCon, but at BotCon, and there was some other ones.
Yeah, that's cool. Going back to Pinky and the Brain, do you remember working with Andrea Romano, who was the voice director on the show?
Yes, definitely. It was terrific. It was fun, and that was a great little piece to just go in and do. And it was it's funny because I've had forgotten about that for years, and then all of a sudden someone posted it online, and it was like, oh my God, now I remember doing that. I just, you do so much stuff. And I've seen clips where even after seeing the clip, I don't remember doing the job. I'm like, I did that. When did I do that? I did a thing one time for NBC to announce their new Saturday lineup of shows, kids
Mm-hmm.
shows.
Yeah.
And I was in a purple suit with a big, tall red top hat and cane and weird glasses. And I saw the clip of that online, and I'm like, when the hell did I did this? And you would think a purple suit and a red hat you would remember, but nope.
Yeah. That's crazy, honestly. Actually, I was gonna ask you, do you remember doing Garfield and Friends? Where you were the voice
Which one?
of Garfield and Friends, where you voiced
Oh yes, that
Sonic
was that was
Seymour.
a long time ago, but that was fun. That was
I
also
can't
done it was
remember.
just me, but it was good.
Trying to think who the voice director would have been on that. I think it might have been Mark Evanier. I might be wrong. He did
I don't
mention.
really, honestly, I wish I did remember, but I don't remember
I'll
because it
ask
was one
Mark.
of those really quick things. I remember I just like ran
Yeah,
into the
like a
studio,
guest
did it, ran
spot.
out.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, right, okay, this is the real final question, I
The
promise.
real final
The
question
last
now.
one
All
was the
right,
final
Amber.
question of the call. This one is the final question of the whole interview. Um, so Saved by the Bell. Um, have you ever seen any of the students years later after Terrible Tester Verde? Sort of.
I actually have run into very many of them. The first one I ran into was Tim, Tiffany
Yeah.
Amber Thiessen. Tiffany Amber Thiessen. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. She was doing a play
Mm-hmm.
in New York off Broadway. I happened
Mm-hmm.
to see it, had no idea she was in it. And I went backstage thinking, oh, she's not going to remember. And she took one look at me. She went, the terrible testimony. I was like, oh my God, you remember. Mario, I've run into several times because he works everywhere. He's constantly doing stuff. Mark Paul Gosselaar, I've run into. Well, I did a TV show with him. And then it was like a sitcom thing. It was a really terrible show. I don't know if it actually even aired. And then have run into him a couple of times. And I think that's pretty much it. Well, I had run into Dustin Diamond. Of course, he's no longer with us. But years after I ran into him at a thing.
Is he not?
Uh,
Oh my gosh. I'm just reading up on him now. I think I did remember hearing about him in the news a good few. Yeah, it happened before we had our first chat. Yeah. Yeah, because I
yeah, no,
remember, and then
crazy.
everyone was coming forward. Yeah, he had I think it was he had what's it called? I think he had cancer, I think. Yeah, extensive stage. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
just
so it
along
was
those lines,
yeah.
perhaps.
And then oh God, his name just went out of my head, who played the principal. I've run into him a few times. So
Right, I'm gonna have to
that
look
was
up
uh
now.
that was one of those shows. When I did that show, they were all still under 18. So you only had them for 20 minutes at a time.
Dennis Haskins.
Dennis Haskins,
His
right?
name was Principal Richard Belding.
Yeah, Mr. Belding.
Mr. Belding. I've
So
never
you only
seen
had people
Saved
for
by the Bell.
20 minutes at a time. So you spent a lot of time sitting around talking to adults. And I got to be friendly with parents of the cast because they were all
Mm-hmm.
there as their guardians. Dustin had his
Mm-hmm.
father, Mark had his mother, Mario had his father,
Yeah.
And we would all just sit and chat and wait because there was nothing for us to do until the kids came out of school for 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that must have been so fun for you, honestly. Just like just being on the set of that and then seeing all these kids later, like, oh my God, look how much you've
Yeah.
grown. So funny, honestly. Well, John, thank you so much for coming on my show today. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and I am so excited to see you at TFCon next month.
Well, I'm looking forward to that too. It'd be nice to see you in something that's a little bit bigger than my little phone here that I've been looking at for the last hour and a half here. So it's, it's better just to be able to see you in person. So I'm looking forward to that myself.
I mean, same
So
as
you
me
have a
because
safe trip over.
I
Happy
will
couple
do.
of days after your birthday.
Thank
And
you.
I'll see you in a month.
Yeah, yeah, and I can't wait to show my dad all the fast talking because he's heard so much about it. We've seen videos of you on YouTube, so like it'd be really great for him to see in person, like everything you do. You talk really fast, and honestly, it's like you're a machine. It's absolutely amazing.
And you did a very good job for just then. I've been very
And he
impressed with
says
what you
I
did there.
talk fast. I'm like,
Yeah.
you need to see John Moschitta. You're gonna meet him in person. So, to you at home, thank you so much for watching this episode of In Conversation with ATF featuring the lovely John Moschitta. Do you prefer to be called John Moschitta or John Moschitta Jr.?
It doesn't really matter, sometimes as long as they get the Machida right. I've been called Machida. I was on a show in England. They called me Mr. Matushos.
Matushu?
I'm
What?
Mr. Matushos. I don't know where the hell that came from. I was on another talk show. There used to be a talk show in the Midwest. It was a live talk show called the Bob Braun Show, and they had a live orchestra. And they introduced me as John Matushito, and the band played "We Are Siamese, If You Please." And the first thing the host said to me was, "That's funny. You don't look Asian." I'm like, "I'm not
Oh my
Asian. I'm
god!
Italian. It's Machida, not Matushito.
Wow. I didn't know Moschitta was Italian.
Italian, Machita."
Wow. Moschitta. Wow, I've got to tell my friend. He's like his family is from Italy. Oh my god, he's gonna love that. Oh my gosh. So thank you, John. And to you at home again, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Take care. Bye. And cut.